Welcome to Manhwa Recaps, spoilers ahead, watch out, and take care. Huge shout out and special thanks to the channel members. This series starts with an old man saying that he's lived nothing but a dog's life, and that he is now 60 years old, and he's rotted in the underworld for 42 of them. And here in Hangzhou, a paradise on earth, he definitely had a chance to live like an emperor. If only he hadn't gone to that fixer's office back then, and if only he never went to prison, and if only he never lost his leg. He has a flashback of a man saying that if he lives like that, he'll get stabbed and die in no time, and living a long and quiet life is the best. And he recalls the same man, soaked in blood, telling him to run as he'll hold the place down. He takes a sip, saying that his brother, Wang Chil, was the one who wanted to live a long and quiet life, wondering why he would have to go and die saving a guy like him. The man then starts to lose his footing, and before he can try to put his peg leg forward, he falls and just stares up at the sky. He says that living like this, he's realized a long and quiet life just is not his style, that his body is way too rotten, and all the past days filled him with regret, and he's sick of it. A country bumpkin gangster like him deserves an end like this, and it's a good day to die. He closes his eyes, accepting his fate, saying he's not going to die, he's going to live a long and quiet life. But when he opens them, he hears someone yelling, calling him lazy, asking how dare he nap in the office from the very first day. He hits him on the back of the head with a broom, asking if he's going to get his act together yet, as the big boss will be here soon, so he needs to hurry up and clean. The dude just wonders where he is, as he remembers closing his eyes on the mountain, then realizes something as he looks down, and his leg is completely normal. He says come to think of it, he recognizes this guy, and he sits there telling him to look at him, just standing there all dazed, asking if he wants another taste of the broom. The man recognizes him as Zhou Pyongdu, but he wonders why he's so young, and he catches a look of himself in the mirror, and says that this is just like when they first met. Then he realizes that he himself looks really young. He starts pinching his cheek, asking if this is really happening, seeing that it's so smooth and there's not a wrinkle in sight. Pyongdu starts beating him with the broom, saying that he must have a death wish today. The dude says it hurts so bad, this definitely isn't a dream. He says it was his first day at the office, and if that's the case, then this is where he spent his entire life. It is the Guangharo fixture's office. In his past life, he was part of the Hyukdos, and they are those who operate in the back alleys of the martial world. They run businesses, collect protection money, and are warriors of the night who deal in black money through lone hay mining, but in reality, they're just a bunch of thugs, and it's pretty simple. And among those Hyukdos, at the very bottom of the barrel is this place, the Guangharo fixture's office, a bunch of pushovers who are too honorable for their own good, and can't even collect a single debt properly. And he wonders if that means he's gone back to being 18 years old again. A man then enters, and we recognize him as Wang Chil, as he asks what they are all doing. Pyongdu looks worried since he's here, and the man just runs over, hugging him, yelling his name. Wang Chil asks what's wrong with him. We finally learn that the man's name is Do Tongdal. Wang Chil asks if he's new, wondering what's wrong with him. Pyongdu says as he can see, he seems to have lost his mind, so he was just here teaching him a lesson. Wang Chil says he must have beaten him a lot for him to act like this. It looks like his mind hasn't come back and has ran further away, but enough of that, he wants to know if the ledgers are finished. Pyongdu says it's not that easy of a job, and they'll have to struggle with it for at least another 4 hours. He asks Tongdal if he can read. He says he can. Pyongdu yells, asking why he keeps running his mouth, saying he's sure he's lying, asking if he can even read 100 characters from a 1,000-character classic. Tongdal says that he's moved past the 1,000-character classic, and he's also dabbled in the 4 books and 3 classics as well. Wang Chil asks if he really finished that, and says that the 4 books thing sounds familiar, saying he's sure it's a difficult book. Tongdal smiles, saying that he was the one who told him to learn it, so that he wouldn't have to kick him out after he became a cripple. Wang Chil says that this is perfect, and that he should try organizing the ledgers, and tells Pyongdu to show him how it's done. Tongdal says it's fine, as he can do it himself. Pyongdu starts barking at him, saying that he needs to beat some more sense into him, and that their ledgers are not as simple as the street vendors. Tongdal says if anything goes wrong, he'll take responsibility. Pyongdu asks what he's talking about, but Tongdal cuts him off, saying that he'll bet his life on it. As long as he's walking the path of a gangster, it's only natural to bet his life on everything that he does. Wang Chil gets excited, saying that it's been a while since they've had a guy like this. And later that day, Pyongdu's opening a book, reading it, and he's absolutely surprised how neatly it's written. Tong Dal says there were too many mistakes, so he had to rewrite it from scratch. Wang Chil laughs, saying that even an illiterate fool like him can tell this is a much better organized ledger, that he wasn't bluffing when he said he'd bet his life. Pyung Du says he's just like him, and Wang Chil says that a real man knows how to admit when he's been beaten, and it looks like a lucky charm has rolled into their office, so he should stay for as long as he can, and not go anywhere. Tong Dal says that he'll stay by his side forever. Wang Chil says that he sure is a sweet talker, if he follows him, he'll show him the house they manage. Tong Dal says of course. And he doesn't know how this happened, but he's been given another chance. After 42 years in the underworld, all he had left were 15 coins, but this life will be different. He wants to get all the golden treasures he couldn't grasp, and the connections that passed by him, and the opportunities he was deprived of. And this time for sure, from the highest place, in the night with the greatest power, he wants to live a long and grand life. As soon as he says this, their office name board falls off the corner. He starts to explain how the sects in this world operate. It's the same as most other martial worlds. There's the orthodox, and the demonic cults, and they're the true protagonists of it. They live in a completely different world from theirs, and they're nothing but the lowest of the low, mere specks of dirt. The only work they have is running brothels, or doing lone hay mining. They stare at the broken signboard, and Wang Chil says that he'll fix it when he gets back. Tong Dal says all the profitable businesses were snatched up by the nearby branches, leaving them to live half-starved, but now things will be different, because he won't let it turn out like that. It takes us to the Celestial Pavilion under the Guangharo shipping office. A man gets excited seeing Wang Chil, and he says that he should visit more often, as he'll forget his face at this rate, and that Wang Chil was well regarded wherever he went, likely thanks to his nature of never looking down on others, and always giving his best. Wang Chil says that it seems that he's come after too long, and the man says not at all, he should have been the one to pay his respects, and he also had other business, so he thought he'd bring the new recruit for introductions. The guy is surprised that the director himself is bringing in the recruits, and Wang Chil says that he heard he even studied, what was it, something called the 4 books and 1,000-character classic. The man says that that sure is impressive at his age, and introduces himself as Go Chang Young, manager of the Celestial Pavilion, saying they'll be seeing each other often, so he looks forward to working with him. Tong Dal says that the pleasure is his, and introduces himself. Chang Young then says that they've just brought in a new batch of wine, and he wants Wang Chil to come and taste it. Wang Chil says that he needs to teach this lad his duties first, and Tong Dal tells him to go enjoy as he can manage things himself. Wang Chil asks what he would possibly know, and Tong Dal says that if he does it wrong, he can correct him later. Right now speaking with the general manager is more important. Wang Chil laughs, calling him a fine lad, saying that if anything urgent comes up, to come get him right away. Chang Young says that he sure is a sharp one, and Wang Chil agrees, saying that it looks like his luck with people has finally arrived, even if it's late. Tong Dal says this time they'll stay together for a very long time, until their dying breaths, but since earlier he's felt a strange sense of dissonance, as if something happened today that shouldn't have. He then looks over, seeing another worker, and he says that old man is struggling too, and the ones at the bottom suffer while the money goes somewhere else. Of all the trades involving brothels, the one that makes the most money is liquor, but most liquor trade goes to the headquarters for the branches, and small shipping offices like theirs only deliver scraps. Even the Guangharo shipping office should be entrusted with a prime business someday, and he realizes it, and says that it was the liquor. He looks over, spotting a rope snapping, holding one of the bottles up as it starts to fall towards a lady. He tells her to be careful, and quickly dashes towards her. We hear it break as we see it fall into pieces beside him, and he sighs out of relief, asking if she's okay. She says that he's the injured one though, and he says that he's fine, asking if she can move. She says yes, and he says just from the aroma alone he's getting tipsy, that must be some good wine. She starts to blush, and some men run in, asking if she's unharmed, and he barks at the worker, saying that they should have carried it better, and that they need to call for the physician quickly for Master Lu. She tells them to stop making a fuss, and then Tong Dal recognizes who she is. She says that she may not know who he is, but she's become deeply indebted at this first meeting, and she formally introduces herself as Lu Ju Yun Jia Yun, the owner of the Celestial Pavilion. Tong Dal introduces himself, saying that he's newly assigned to the shipping office. She tells them to fetch a physician and escort their honored guest, and he says that there's no need to go this far. They start taking him to a bath that has been prepared. She starts smiling at his name, and we hear her asking if Wang Chil really said that as she's talking to Chang Young. He says yes, and though stingy with praise, he spoke endlessly of this Tong Dal fellow. That aside, it seems that even Ja Yun is showing interest in a man, so the sun must be rising from the west. She says that's not what it is, but asks Chang Young what he thinks of him. He says at first glance he seems ordinary, but he gave off the feeling of someone with a story. More than anything, he didn't feel like a man who belonged in this type of work. Tong Dal lets out a deep breath and thanks Ja Yun for the bath and tea, and she asks if the tea suits his taste. He says for a thug like him, such top-grade snow-scent tea is wasted on him. She says that not many people know the scent, and yet he can tell it instantly. She says that she'll send him home with some when he leaves. He says that's already far too generous a treatment, and she asks him if maybe she could offer some favor in return. She has no intention of offending him, it's just that having received a favor, she thought she should repay it. She gets embarrassed, saying that she keeps slipping up in her words, and this isn't like her. Tong Dal says that if she thinks of it as a favor, then grant him one request. He wants her to overlook the mistake of the old man pulling the cart. She asks if that's really all he wants, and he says that he's already been given clothes, enjoyed a bath, more than enough hospitality, and also the top-grade tea. She smiles, saying that he is a good man, and she won't hold him accountable in the slightest, but next time he can come to the pavilion, she wants to attend to him first. He says that would be an honor. Chang Young is listening to this, saying that since the pavilion has opened, not once has she personally attended to a guest, so for her to say that, maybe she's finally found some springtime in her life. And while the Celestial Pavilion is a great brothel with tons of high-quality liquor and good profit, the big problem is that there is another branch called the Baekdong branch, who proposed a wager and staked the Celestial Pavilion. Wang Chil says that it's a shame, and that bastard, Zhang Hebong, intends to swallow the pavilion. Hyung Do says that even if he's the guildmaster's brother-in-law, he's going too far already as he has plenty. Wang Chil says that he's planning to strip them bare. If they don't accept the wager, he'll just use force. And Tong Dal says in his past life it was stolen away by the Baekdong branch, all because of Chief Hebong's greed. In the underworld of the Black Society, the difference in influence between a branch and a shipping office is immense. That's why in his past life, the Celestial Pavilion was lost without a proper resistance, but he can stop it this time. He steps up, saying that if they would like it, he has a suggestion, and he knows exactly how to handle this current situation. We learn more about Hebong, and he is the guildmaster's brother-in-law, and pretty much greed incarnate. In his past life, the Guangharo Trading Company lost countless things to this bastard. Wang Chil says that he'll tell them both about Elder GM and how he borrowed 15 taels of silver from the Baekdong branch, and now he claims he has no money to pay back. If they manage to collect from GM, they'll acknowledge their abilities and won't take over their business, but he wonders how the hell they're meant to collect what even they couldn't. They're just trying to pin incompetence onto them. Tong Dal says that if he puts it that way, it means that the Baekdong branch is incompetent too for losing the 15 taels. Wang Chil says that there's something they can do in this rotten world, since power is the law. He wonders where Tong Dal is going, and Tong Dal says he's going to see Elder GM. Wang Chil asks if he wasn't listening, as that old man didn't cough up a single copper coin under threats and torture. Tong Dal says that just because that pig bastard wasn't competent doesn't mean he won't be, and that he'll take full responsibility and go collect it himself, and they can use this to expand the game a little. After he leaves, Pyung Do starts yelling, asking if he's out of his mind, if he's really trusting that rookie. Wang Chil says that he's someone willing to risk his life. If nothing else he can at least judge a man's worth, and if the rookie is willing to risk his life, he should put something on the line too. They then all arrive, and we hear a man saying that he's finally gotten here, and that he was hoping to watch him learn from his debt collection skills. This is Hebong of the Baekdong branch, and he says he even brought along one of their promising branch rookies, and his name is Jang Baekdong. Tong Dal asks how he's been, and the guy just awkwardly talks to him. Tong Dal explains that before being assigned to an active zone, he and Baekdong trained together as fellow recruits. Hebong asks Wang Chil who the kid with him is, and Wang Chil says that he's also a new recruit with great promise. Hebong asks if this is the one who did such an excellent job with the ledgers that once Wang Chil retires, he'll have to take him under his wing, and even for Wang Chil, if he only has one hand left, he'll have to retire. Tong Dal says that he raised the stakes of the bet just as he asked. If they manage to collect the 15 taels from Elder GM it'll be perfect, but if they fail, Wang Chil's wrist will be cut off. Hebong shows that he's brought a sharp axe, and he's not playing around, saying that they should go and try to see who can collect the silver. Tong Dal says that he can feel his composure, and he must be sure they'll never be able to collect it, but he doesn't know what to do. The GM incident, from beginning to end, is something he remembers every last detail of. The doors burst open, and Hibong asks if the old man's been well. He says that he's got no money they could collect, and Hibong says that he knows, and these are the new players who will face him today, and they'll definitely be able to get the money from him, so he should treat them well. Of course, he won't have the money, but if he does, his face will be disgraced, and he'll be very disappointed. Tong Dal says that he is openly pressuring him, and even if they win this bet, they'll swallow their office whole, so it makes sense. It's time for him to start working the bait. Tong Dal asks GM where his son has been these days, and GM says that he disappeared about a month ago, so he doesn't know. Tong Dal says he heard he gambled away the entire family fortune, even the borrowed money got blown in the gambling dens. That's too bad he didn't lose it in their territory. GM asks if he's here to rub it in, saying just to beat him like the others did, so this useless old life can end. Tong Dal says that he's not some bastard son, so he can't hit an elder, and he tells Beek Dong to hand him the axe. Beek Dong asks what he's planning to do, and Tong Dal says he already mentioned it, that he's got a touch of clairvoyance, and that his sister who left 2 years ago will come back soon, so he shouldn't worry about it. Beek Dong looks physically surprised, asking how he knew about his sister running away, and Tong Dal says that he told him, he's got clairvoyance. Hibong says my ass, and that he must have heard from someone else, and he should focus on collecting the money, asking what he's doing. Tong Dal asks why he thinks he suddenly started talking about it in the first place, as he stomps the floor. He says it's right here, and that he's used the god of fortune for his own greed, and that he'll be punished by heaven, as he swings down shattering the floor. GM yells, telling him to stop, asking what he's doing. Hibong says that he didn't even budge when they broke his limbs, yet he's reacting now. Wang Chil puts him in a full Nelson, telling him to stay back. GM says that there's nothing there, and he continues yelling it, but Tong Dal says that he doesn't know about that, and asks why the guy who supposedly ran away a month ago is coming out now. Wang Chil and Hibong are surprised to see GM's son, whose name is Sangjin. GM tells him that it's alright, not to worry, the law of the state stands firm, they can't harm them. Tong Dal says that it seems like he's grown old for nothing, asking if he's heard that fists rule above the law, and it would have been nice if he handed over the 15 taels by now. GM says that he told him he has no money, asking if he's not afraid of the law. In an instant the mood gets dark and tense, as Sangjin screaming out on the floor, looking at his severed finger. Tong Dal tells him to open his hand properly, or else his entire hand should be sent flying, and that without a pinky he'll only struggle with picking his nose, but without a thumb, even pissing on his own would be hard. He says not to worry, but once they cut off his hands and feet, they'll cut that off too, so he doesn't need to worry about peeing anymore. GM yells to stop, saying that he'll pay the money that they owe him. In this incident before, he never repaid the debt nor kept his word. He tricked the Beekdong branch and slipped away under the night's cover, a most disgraceful incident where even a money lender failed to catch his debtor. Tong Dal shows the 15 taels they recovered and says that now they don't have to worry about them. Wang Chil says of course, so they even have the papers to prove that they own this now. Hibong though says this is invalid, and using clairvoyance is forbidden. The axe flies right by his face, and Hibong yells, asking what he's doing, but he's also terrified. Tong Dal apologizes, saying that there's a ghost on his shoulder, and that if he holds still, he'll get rid of it, and he can trust him. Hibong starts screaming, saying that he shouldn't get near him, and Wang Chil stares at him, saying that their trading company just had fortune rolling on its own, and it's all thanks to Tong Dal. Sometime later, Wang Chil asked Tong Dal if he really has spiritual power. Tong Dal asked what he was talking about, and Wang Chil asked how he knew that the old man's son was hiding in a secret underground room. Tong Dal says when he walked on the floor he could tell there was a space beneath it. Wang Chil asked if he really sensed that, and Tong Dal says yes, that's when he got the feeling and the strength that his son, who was known for his filial piety, would just run away, and they must have been planning to escape together when the chance came. 15 taels of silver is more than enough to make a fresh start somewhere. Wang Chil asked if in the end he really doesn't have any powers, and Tong Dal says who knows. They bump cups, and Wang Chil says this brat's always being vague, and when he gets to the headquarters it'll be in his favor to say he does have spiritual power. Tong Dal asked whether they're going to headquarters, and Wang Chil says as he probably knows, he's already rotten and old, and his prime ended the moment the former leader passed away. Still, with 20 years of experience, he can only get someone like him planted in headquarters, and if they return, even that bastard Hibong won't oppose much. If they were to return the Chongsangru they got from Hibong, Tong Dal asked whether he would do that, and Wang Chil says that if he thinks about it, he's sure Hebong will soon storm into Chongsangru. With just the 5 of them at the Guangharo branch, they can't stop him. Tong Dal says that his guts are so small they're not even fit for bar snacks. Wang Chil asked what he means, and Tong Dal says that he should just handle the petty matters, and as for guarding Chongsangru he'll find a way, and he's got a little plan to live a long life and not a short one, and to make sure that Wang Chil eats as much as he wants. Wang Chil says that overeating will only give him an upset stomach, and Tong Dal says that he's always hungry anyways. Wang Chil asks how he ended up with a guy like him, and he thought he'd just slack off until retirement. Tong Dal says even if he does, he should slack off from a high position, and that he should become the branch leader. Wang Chil asked if he means sitting in Hebong's seat, saying that he should forget it, as connections matter more than skill, and that guy is the leader's brother-in-law. Tong Dal reminds him that if their marriage breaks off, the tie will be broken just like that. Wang Chil says that's true, but there's no way it could be cut off so easily, and Tong Dal laughs, saying that it will. His face is full of signs of doom, and he's a playboy, so if he gets caught cheating on his wife there's no way that the hot-tempered leader's sister will just sit still. He's got it all figured out, so Wang Chil just has to follow his lead. Wang Chil says with smarts like his, he should be studying and heading to the imperial palace. Tong Dal asked why he would climb high in the palace, as he'd only end up lacking to the emperor, and instead he'll rule over the night of this world right here, and become the emperor of it. It jumps to Hebong screaming, saying they need to pull out all of the girls out of Chongsangru, the courtesans, entertainers, and everyone, and also to get rid of the alcohol. One of the men says that if they pull the courtesans out immediately, there'll be heavy penalties for breach of contract. He says he'll take responsibility and just to do as he says. The deputy branch leader of Baekdong, named Jin Ho, says that he understands, then he says that he's tired of this pig, and if he wasn't the leader's brother-in-law, that branch leader seat would have been his. He says it'll take at least 20 days to withdraw them, but asks if they have to do this, as the Guangharo branch is still part of the same group. Hebong asks what he means by part of the same group, and says they're not some antisocial club. They're the black society, and if needed, they'd even stab their parents in the back. He hits him across the face, asking why he doesn't get that, saying that this is why he's in the position he is. Jin Ho asked if he really has to keep living like this. We see Baekdong asking Tong Dal if he really does have spiritual power. His sister came by yesterday, and she left 2 years ago, just like Tong Dal said she would. Tong Dal asks what made him think he was lying, and Baekdong says that he believes him now, but asks why he called him here. Tong Dal says he needs a favor, and he needs to be let into his branch. Baekdong says that if he goes in, he'll cause big trouble with Hebong, and if he gets caught, he's finished too. Tong Dal says that he sees an iron death omen on him. Baekdong gets scared, asking what that is, and Tong Dal says it means he could get stabbed to death, and pretty soon too. Scared, thinking it's true, he asks if that's really going to happen. Tong Dal asks if he still doubts his spiritual power, and Baekdong says no, he believes him, that's why he's asking if he can save him. Tong Dal says changing fate comes at a big price, and Baekdong takes the bait, saying that he'll give him the branch key to the ledger room. Tong Dal says fine, for a friend's life he'll make the sacrifice. Soon Hebong will cut off the booze and women, and after that he'll try to take Chongsangru by force. If Tong Dal gets the branch key from Baekdong, that'll open a path for the booze and women problem. The real issue is the armed takeover, for if their group's men collapse in a single day, they'll be finished. In that case he needs to find someone to deal with it. It jumps to a man saying it's 6 taels of silver up front, 2 taels monthly, and they'll also provide a house for the both of them to live in. He tells the man that he'll be in touch soon and await good news. The man's name is Jang Yusum. A woman asks if he'll accept the offer, and he asks why she's still standing, telling her to go lay down. She says that he could just go back to the military, that she doesn't want to see him abandon his beliefs. This is his wife, named Seon Hae Min. Yusum says that the pay from the military can't cure her illness, and in a world without her, he's swamped and can never escape. For him to cure his wife's illness, he left the military and wandered the Zhonghu, but in the Zhonghu he was nothing more than an unemployed swordsman. No righteous sects or famous escort agencies would accept him. The only path was for him to walk the road to the end. We hear Tong Dal asking if anyone's home, and he introduces himself, saying that he must be the Grandmaster Yusum. Yusum asks what business brings him here, and Tong Dal says that he's come from the city, and he's likely never heard of their group, but he's from the Black Society. Yusum asks what business he has with him, and Tong Dal says that he would like to bring him aboard. He'll give him 5 taels of silver up front and 1 tael of silver per month. Yusum says this is much worse than the people who were just here, but he doesn't look like he's part of the society at all, and the aura he gives off is unusual, like a sword still in its sheath. Tong Dal says he knows that another society came here first, and he's sure that their terms were better, but a man like him can't become just another thug, and that nobody would just gladly accept the underworld. They don't ask much of him, but if he joins he can promise one thing, and that is if there's anything he doesn't wish to do, he doesn't have to. Yusum is surprised that he's so bold, and says that he overestimates him too much for a first meeting, asking what he'll do if he chooses to do nothing at all. Tong Dal says the tiger can guard its home just by existing, and that this is the key to turning their branch into a tiger's den. Right now, he is the most underestimated person he knows, but he'll make him one of his no matter what. Back at the Guang Haro office, Wang Chil says that from today on, Tong Dal is the squad leader, and that they must serve him respectfully. Pyung Du says that he joined the society 2 months earlier than him, though. Wang Chil says that 2 months is nothing to make a fuss about. Tong Dal enters asking what's going on, and Pyung Du bumps into his shoulder, saying lucky him. Tong Dal just wonders why he's acting like that. A man walks over asking if he's thirsty, telling him to have a glass of water. Another man says that he is now the squad leader, and this is one of the people in the office named Seo Wang-su. Tong Dal says he's only been a member for 10 days, so how could he have such a title, and that Wang Chil should think about the others too. This man's name is also Hebong, so try not to get confused, but he says he has no complaints about it. Wang Chil says that Pyung Du will also eventually accept, so there's nothing to worry about. Wang Chil then asks about the person Tong Dal was recruiting, asking if his coins are safe. Tong Dal says that he's here, and we hear Yusum asking if they're inside. Tong Dal smiles, saying that he came just in time. Outside, he and Wang Chil are staring at Yusum, and Wang Chil says that he's much sharper than any other martial artist he's seen, and he wonders how Tong Dal found someone like him. Yusum says he was only late because he had a lot to think about, and he'll return the money. Tong Dal asks if he's going to the other society, but Yusum says he wants to have a proposal. If Tong Dal spars with him and lasts 10 seconds, he'll accept, and he sent the same proposal to the other society. Wang Chil asks why he would make such a proposal in the first place, and Yusum says he wants to test his intuition, and he's giving the squad leader a chance to leave his sword sheathed. How does he know he's the squad leader already? Yusum says they'll meet again tomorrow at noon, and he leaves. Wang Chil asks Tong Dal how he met someone like this, and Tong Dal says he has a wide network himself. Wang Chil says that it's too bad, if he joined their family they'd be very secure. Tong Dal asks why he thinks he can't, and Wang Chil tells him that there's no way he'd be able to last 10 seconds against someone like Yusum, and he seems stronger than the top master of their society right now. Tong Dal says even 10 of those dudes wouldn't be enough to match one Yusum. Wang Chil says that's strong, and that's pretty nasty. If he didn't want to come he should have just said no. Tong Dal says if he didn't want to, he never would have made the proposal, and it seems like he was trying to find a proper excuse to come to them. Yusum asks if he really thinks he can last 10 seconds. Tong Dal looks up at him full of confidence, but says no. The next day, Yusum thanks them all for gathering here, and we see the people from the society. This man's name is Gong So Sung, and he is with another man named Taehan. He says that he's here to make sure that there's no overstay of the 10 seconds that Yusum offered. Yusum says that he looks quite strong, and he'll use this for his weapon, as he holds up a stake. Taehan says that in the sword forest they don't use toys like that. He says that Yusum must not know that, being in the army, but they fight for real every day. They're not like soldiers who only do sloppy training. Yusum says that he can use whatever weapon he wants, and Taehan warns him that if he loses an arm that's on him, and if he wins their last 10 seconds, he wants to know what happens to the young kid. Tong Dal tells him to stop yapping and just fight already, and there's no way he's going to win. Taehan asks why he's so arrogant, and Tong Dal says that he's just a loudmouth, and the one that brought him should be ashamed. So Sung gets pissed, saying that Tong Dal's confident, and asks him if he'd like to make a bet on whether Taehan can last 10 seconds or not. Tong Dal says that if he does, he'll give 5 silver coins. So Sung asks if he's also trying to get that much back from him, and Tong Dal tells him that if he's scared to just die then. So Sung, of course, falls for the bait, telling him not to change his words. Yusum and Taehan stand before one another, and Taehan thinks that Yusum is scared of his blade. He says that he's nothing but a pampered brat who doesn't know real combat, so he'll finish him in one strike. He charges in, and Yusum doesn't even move, as the attack flies straight towards him. Taehan's already thinking he's won, but before he can comprehend what's happened, Yusum is already behind him. He says that this is a place with real blades, and one prick is 100% death, and he pokes him in the back, saying that he wins. Taehan gets pissed and says that he won't die, and Tongdal says that if it's just a spar he doesn't wish to continue, but if he wants to fight for real, he will continue it. Taehan, realizing that he's lost, drops to his knees, saying that he accepts defeat. Tongdal says far beyond what he expected, and he couldn't even graze him. They can't lose Yusum, as he's too important to them. Tongdal says it's his turn, and So Sung asks what will happen if Tongdal also fails to last 10 seconds. Yusum says that if that happens, he'll go to So Sung's society, asking Tongdal if he understands. Tongdal says of course, since they offered better terms. He has a request as well though, that he wants Yusum to use a real sword instead of a wooden one. Taehan looks surprised, and Tongdal draws a little blade, saying that he wants to test it. Yusum says that he'll gladly be the opponent for his test, and he starts to unsheath his blade, releasing in Yusum aura. So Sung says the killing intent is on another level from before, that he didn't even use his true power in the spar with Taehan just now, and he wonders if he's really trying to kill Tongdal. Yusum charges in, saying he'll attack first, and he swings towards Tongdal's throat. Both So Sung and Taehan are speechless, and Yusum smiles, saying fortunately his intuition was right, as Tongdal blocked his attack with a little knife. Tongdal and Yusum keep trading blows with one another, and Tongdal explains how he's so skilled. He was part of something called the Loyal Soldier Punishment. It's a punishment that one bears in place of someone who deserves execution or an equivalent penalty. Believing only the words that promised a brilliant retirement, if he took the blame, he became a dog of the military. Tongdal, accepting the status of a criminal, a loyal soldier who has nothing to regret even if he dies, was always deployed to the most dangerous places. From Hainan Island to the south of Mongolia and the north, from sea pirates to the horse-riding tribes of the plains, he roamed battlefields more dangerous than fire, and more horrific than hell itself. And among the loyal punishment soldiers, he was the only one to survive more than a year. They called him the ghost of the battlefield. He charges in, but it looks as if Yusum is done fighting. He says that he promised 10 seconds, but it went far beyond that. Tongdal thanks him for the guidance, and Yusum looks down at his hand, seeing that it's still shaking. He says that he didn't expect it to be this much, and if the duel had continued, he's not sure if he would have won. Yusum says that it was the duel that awakened him from potential arrogance, and thanks him. So Sung then calls out to Tongdal, asking if he's really only 18, saying that he's at least some late-stage prodigy of some martial arts sect, asking if he's trying to rise higher. Tongdal asks him to get to the point, and So Sung says to come join their association, as he promises him the position of deputy director under his authority. Tongdal says that's a pretty huge offer, as barely anyone his age gets to be a section chief, and he must have impressed him quite a bit. Tongdal thanks him for the offer, but says that he prefers to choose rather than be chosen, so he refuses. So Sung tells him he'll regret it, and Tongdal says time will tell, and then asks if he hasn't forgotten. So Sung asks about what, and Tongdal tells him to pay the 5 taels, and he'll see him later. Tongdal says that recruiting Yusum is a huge achievement, and things were better than he expected. He thinks back to his past, saying that when he was serving on the battlefield on his 3rd year, he lost his leg, and since he was useless as a soldier, the military pardoned him as a show of mercy. He returned to Hongjiao, but not a single promise was kept, and surviving 3 years was by no means luck, it was talent. Through his previous life, it never blossomed or was crushed, but this time it'll be different. Of course, for now he needs to get some proof of Hebong, so he's in his office. He says that he could easily enter using the key from Baekdong, and he must be trying to cut off the women and alcohol out of spite of losing Chongsangru, and he needs to check the ledgers to understand the scale. He then starts reading the ledger, saying there it is. As he starts writing it, he says copying will take ages. But as he starts doing so, the door starts to try to be forced open, and Hebong barges in asking why they haven't fixed his door yet, saying there's not a single capable bastard among them all. Tongdal's hiding underneath the desk, saying that it's crazy for him to come to his office at this hour. A woman asks if it'll take long, and Hebong tells her to stop yapping and to wait quietly. Tongdal says that's definitely not his wife by the tone, and that must be one of his mistresses. Hebong starts going over to one of his books, saying that Elder Han got caught, and the moment his name appeared in his book, he was trapped. Tongdal says that if he can read that book, it would be a pretty big deal, as Elder Han is second in influence in their association after the head, and this is a pretty huge gain. A vase falls to the floor, and the woman screams. Hee-bong turns asking what happened, and she says that she broke the porcelain, asking how she's meant to clean it. Hee-bong asks why she touched it, and he starts saying that it's got blood on it, and there should be clothes, and the wardrobe has changed into. Tong-dal realizes this is bad, as Hee-bong's heading straight towards him, and at this rate he'll be caught, and that he was careless, and everything could be ruined now. If things go wrong, it's not just him that would be punished. The mistress asks what he's waiting for, telling him to get the doctor. Hee-bong says they need to change the clothes first, and she says she's in really bad pain, and he says that she sure does lack some patience. They head out of the room, and Tong-dal sighs, saying that was close. He became too erratic because he had future information, and from now on he'll move carefully. He's identified the whereabouts of the women to prevent them from escaping, and he needs to transfer their affiliation to their office. It'll cost a lot, and money will be poured out in the long term, but the problem is that he needs it immediately. We hear Ja-yeon asking if she heard him wrong, asking for him to repeat that, and Tong-dal saying that he really needs some money from her. She just wonders if that's really all he wants. She asks if he's suddenly wanting money because of the conflict with the Baekdong branch, that he needs funds. He says as expected of her, she seems to have all the intel, and tells her that's correct. She says that she heard that the Baekdong branch won't be sending the courtesans to Cheongsangru, and asks if it's because of that. Tong-dal says it is, and he plans to transfer all the courtesans to their branch office. For managing the courtesans in the relocation, he will surely save her time, and he promises that she won't have any headaches because of this. She says that he sure is intriguing. At times he looks like a born scammer, but seeing those confident eyes, she can't help but believe him. She says that she's inclined to believe him, but says that she'll do it under the condition that they both grant each other one request. He says that he'll grant her anything. She smiles, asking if he knows of Sajiju. Sajiju is a precious wine that Tong-dal only tasted once in his previous life, and it's priced at 2 taels of silver per bottle. It was a rare wine, scarce enough that it couldn't be sold even if he had it. She says that she wishes to secure a bottle, or to secure a supply of this, but it's very difficult, and that if he can arrange for Sajiju to be supplied, she will grant his request. He says this is just as absurd as Yusum's duel. He stands before the winery asking if he should just threaten the guy. He says that's not a method that'll work on him. He wonders how to do it. The old man though approaches him first, asking if he has business here, and he introduces himself as the owner named Huang Paityan Seung. Tong-dal introduces himself as well, but wonders why this dude's staring at him so much, and Paityan Seung asks if he doesn't remember him. Tong-dal takes another look, and now he does, as this was the old man from before, and he was the wine cart grandpa. Paityan Seung says that means he's not blind after all, and Tong-dal says it's impressive that he remembers, asking if he was hurt back then. Paityan Seung reminds him that he was the one who had the thing fall on him, and he was curious what kind of place a brothel is for chasing him for over a year just to get some Sajiju. Tong-dal asks if he disguised himself as a worker to spy, and he says that it's more for prospective client research rather than spying. Tong-dal says that's exactly what spying is though, and Paityan Seung asks him why he told Ja-yeon that he did not want the old man to be punished. Tong-dal asks how he knew, but Paityan Seung says to answer the question. Tong-dal says that it's just because, and the old man asks if that's really all it was. Tong-dal just doesn't want to tell him that he saw his past self in him, and he asks why he's digging into such things, and what the point is of bothering an old man. Paityan Seung says for a thug he has a cute side, and Tong-dal tells him not to be creepy. Paityan Seung then asks how old he looks to him, and Tong-dal says around 70. Paityan Seung says that he's bad at socializing, and he should have shaved off 10 years or so. Tong-dal says that nobody in his field is good at socializing, and Paityan Seung says that he seems a bit different than the usual thugs. Tong-dal says that dog shit or horse shit is still just shit in the end, but wonders why they're having small talk, and Paityan Seung says there's nothing better than small talk for building camaraderie, asking if he needs Sajiju. Tong-dal is surprised, and Paityan Seung says that the owner of Cheongsangru said to ask him about the Sajiju delivery date. Tong-dal asks if Ja-yeon knew he was the owner of the brewery, and he says of course, as he even promised to supply Sajiju there. Tong-dal says that he thought it was a difficult task, but it turned out to be as simple as placing a spoon on the dining table, and that this place is crawling with scammers to the brim. Back at the office, Wang Chil says that he supplied the money to bring the courtesans, asking if he's really trying to supply Sajiju to Cheongsangru. Tong-dal says he is, And Wang Chil double checks that they also brought along Yusum. Tong Dal says yes, asking why he keeps checking all these things. Wang Chil says that's because it's unbelievable, but asking how this is possible in just 3 days. Pyung Du says that Sajiju is a pretty good jackpot, and this is not the time for him to lie about empty claims. Wang Chil hits him in the head, asking why he keeps acting out recently, and that he told him to treat Tong Dal properly. Tong Dal asks if that can be done overnight, saying that he's fine. Wang Chil asks where he's going now, and Tong Dal tells him there's still unfinished business. Wang Chil asks what's still left to be resolved, and Tong Dal says that now he has captured the tiger, and it's time to become friends. That night we see Yusum's wife, Hae Min, leaving the house, and Tong Dal asks where she's off to in such a hurry, saying that if she disappears without a word, Yusum will be concerned. In his past life, when Yusum walked the path to the underworld, she ended up leaving his side, believing he gave up his dreams because of her. She departed, and it became a famous story because it turned him into a demon. She says that it's better for him if she's not here. Since he became part of the underworld for her medical expenses, she should disappear so he can dream again. And it might be hard at first, but he's strong, so he'll overcome it. Tong Dal says that's such a pure heart she has, and a thug like himself would never understand it. She asks if he's mocking her, and he says that he was simply thinking, asking which one she thinks is worse, him losing his dreams, or him losing her. Given the sincerity she's shown this far, he wants her to listen to his story, and just because they work together doesn't mean that everyone becomes his ally. The most important thing is to not hold back, and he can't bear to see Yusum fall apart right after joining their office, and he tells her that it's going to be a boring story about a dude who lost his leg. Tong Dal calmly told his story about his previous life, but he didn't tell her it was him specifically. He ends it by saying that he lived a foolish life, and if only he hadn't lost his leg, maybe his life wouldn't have ended so miserably. She says that's a sad story, and he says sad, yet it's a story that must be told. She asks what he means, and Tong Dal says that if she disappears, Yusum will become like that man who lost his leg. She might be slow in the head, because she asks if that means that she's like his leg, and Tong Dal wonders if she's actually that dense. She says that she doesn't have the strength to stay beside him after he's lost his dream. And Tong Dal says that no life grants you everything you want. The only difference is how each person bears the burdens they're given, and the burden she casts aside will fall entirely under Yusum, and that atonement is better carried out by staying at his side. She says listening to him speak makes her feel like a wicked, cowardly woman. And Tong Dal asks if she'll keep walking down the path she has chosen, or turn around. In the end, she returned to Yusum, who had been searching for her, and her short-lived runaway came to an end. From now on, Yusum would never have to walk the path of a demon, because he'll make sure of it. Back at the office, they're wishing Wang Chil a happy 38th birthday. Damn, he looked way older than that, dude looks ancient. Wang Chil asks what they got him, and Tong Dal says shoes. Wang Chil asks if they hate him, wondering what kind of cheap shoes are these for a birthday gift. Tong Dal says that he doesn't have money, since he hasn't gotten paid yet. Wang Chil reminds him about the 5 taels that he won off of So Sung. Tong Dal says he spent that ages ago, as 2 taels went to find Yusum a house, and 3 went to treating his wife's illness. Wang Chil asks how extraordinary the doctor was for it to cost 3 silver taels. Tong Dal says that it was Black Coat. Wang Chil asks if he's the same one who treats injured thugs and cures cordial diseases, and if he really gave a quack like that money. Tong Dal says once he learns who he really is, he won't be able to say that. Wang Chil asks who he is then, and Tong Dal says he'll find out soon enough. He goes to leave, saying that he needs to go invest in his future now. He says that the important thing now is the magistrate murder case. If it had not been for Wang Chil's birthday, he never would have remembered it. The magistrate's death doesn't mean much to a thug, but saving that man changes everything. It can't hurt to be on good terms with a magistrate, and it takes place about 3 in the afternoon, and their location is right around this corner. As he turns, he hears the magistrate asking what they're doing in broad daylight. And some thugs say that he hasn't even taken office yet, so he's not really a magistrate. The guy asks if they really are trying to kill him, knowing fully well who he is. His name is Yang Su Guan. The thugs ask why they would kill him if they didn't know, and Su Guan says to wait. However much they're being paid, he'll double it and give it to the next person. Tong Dal says that this dude's a loser, and if he's trying to bargain, it should be way more than that. Instantly, Su Guan starts upping the money, and Tong Dal says he's quick to adapt. The thugs tell him to stop embarrassing himself and just to die, but Tong Dal turns the corner, yelling, saying this is enough. They turn, asking who he is, and he says that he's just another thug passing by, and from the look of it, they're not the Red Tiger Society. Now if they want to cause trouble here, they need to have their approval first. They ask if he really thinks they can stop them. The thugs are trying to get him out of the way. They'll overlook it once and he should get lost. Tong Dal says that he's not even worth his blade, and the guy asks what he's talking about, but Tong Dal comes in with a punch, sending him flying into the wall past Su Guan. He says that he may not be as strong as the legendary Ghost in his prime, but he is at least worthy of that title still to this day. The other thugs realize this is bad, and they can't do anything, and they get off screen as we see them bleeding on the ground. Tong Dal says that it looks like Su Guan isn't hurt, and he was serious, and Su Guan says that his pride's been wounded more than anything. Tong Dal tells him that he's lucky that he met him, and Su Guan asks if he knows who he is. Tong Dal says he does, and Su Guan wonders if he orchestrated all of this, trying to tie himself to him. Tong Dal wonders if he should praise him for guessing half right, but tells him that's quite the imagination he has. Su Guan says that if he's not with them, then to kill them. Tong Dal instantly stomps one of their skulls in, and Su Guan is surprised. Tong Dal asks if he wants him to finish the rest, and Su Guan asks what he's going to do if he really kills them. He wonders what his name is. Tong Dal tells him, and Su Guan asks where he works from. He says he is the squad leader over at the Guangharo branch. Su Guan introduces himself, and says that these dudes must have been sent by some local forces. Tong Dal says that they most likely were, asking if he needs help. Su Guan tells him to forget it, as he's not so useless as to need Black Society's help. Tong Dal reminds him that if it wasn't for him, he'd already be dead. Su Guan says that among the 6 offices of the magistracy, which one should he be the most wary of? Tong Dal asks why he's asking a thug that. He says as usual, the Office of Criminal Affairs is the root of corruption, but the Workshop Bureau has a better reputation at least. Su Guan then asks which office has the most money flowing in. This question catches Tong Dal a little off guard, but Su Guan laughs it off, saying that he'll repay this favor when the opportunity arises. That does not sound like a joke to him. And surely he didn't end up saving the wrong man. It jumps to an old man pissing, and this is Elder Han of the Red Tiger Society. He says the liquor's hitting him faster than usual today. Tong Dal greets him, introducing himself as the squad leader of the Guangharo branch office. Elder Han says that he must be the newcomer who's flattened Hebong's nose recently. Tong Dal says it's an honor to be recognized, and Han says that this isn't his branch's turf, but he wonders if he came here to drink. Tong Dal says he doesn't have the spare cash to be frequenting such fancy brothels, and he came here because he has something to say to him. He says that Hebong has found his weakness. Han looks surprised, asking what he means. Tong Dal says that he's embezzled quite a large sum, and Han asks what nonsense he's spouting. Tong Dal says that if he's not aware, then there's nothing more to say, that he'll be taking his leave. From here on, it's the battle for initiative. Han tells him to wait, and Tong Dal smiles since he took the bait, and Han says to throw bait and just walk away. Tong Dal tells him that Hebong knows of his embezzlement, and he recorded it all in his secret ledger. Han asks if he's seen the ledger, and Tong Dal says he had to confirm it for himself. Han says that he's definitely not telling him this out of kindness, asking what it is he wants. Tong Dal says that he wants his brother to be the branch leader. Han asks if he's serious, and Tong Dal says he is. Han says even as an elder, he can't just arbitrarily replace a branch leader. Not even the society leader can do that without cause. Tong Dal says that that's exactly why he'll give him justification, and that Hebong will soon fall out of favor with the society leader over a woman. Han asks if Hebong truly has a side piece, and Tong Dal says it would be strange if he didn't. Han says that knowing and proving it are two different matters, and Tong Dal says he wouldn't have come to him if he wasn't confident he could expose it. Han says that his gaze is sharp, and he sure is amusing, and he agrees, saying that once Hebong is ousted and that ledger is in his hands, he'll give him his full support. Tong Dal thanks him, asking one more thing, asking if he has any family members planning to visit the mountain soon. Han looks surprised, saying that his daughter-in-law is going to the temple the day after tomorrow to pray for her son, asking how he knew. Around that time near the temple, there was an incident where a woman was devoured by a tiger. Of course, his daughter-in-law never saw it, but he tells him that he foresees a misfortune involving a tiger for his family. He asks if he can really divine the future, and Tong Dal says that it seems that he hasn't heard he has spiritual insight. We see Black Coat treating Hei Min, and she thanks him. He says that he was paid 3 taels of silver, so he should give at least the proper value worth. She looks surprised, asking if he's certain that it was 3 tails, and then apologizes if she offended him. He says it's a normal reaction. It's odd for a gangster to pay 3 taels to a doctor who's mostly treating brothel diseases. A woman then enters, telling Hae-min she's finished. Hae-min says she's sorry she had to come, and she could have come alone. This lady's name is M. Chun-ran. Chun-ran says not at all, she's paid to attend to her, so she must earn her keep. Besides, even these alleys are dangerous in broad daylight. They then hear the sound of men screaming, and Chun-ran slowly turns the corner as we hear Tong-dal asking if they were the ones who caused a ruckus near the house yesterday. The dude says that he swears he'll never show his face here ever again, and Tong-dal says he won't get the chance anyways, that he should spread the word and let everybody know what happens when he messes with them. He starts beating him, and we see Chun-ran realizing this is bad, saying she should take a different road. Back at home, Yusum asks if the treatment helped. Hae-min says that she has something to tell him, and that she saw Tong-dal handling what should have been his responsibility. Trouble was common near the pavilion, from drunkards to deliberate troublemakers. Ever since Yusum joined them, he had driven such people away without causing serious harm, and he didn't want to leave them with heavy injuries, but for the underworld, you can't afford to be soft, you never know how they'll retaliate. Hae-min says that her conscience felt heavy because Tong-dal was doing the things he avoided out of reluctance. Yusum says that he's sorry for making her feel that way, and she says that he should be apologizing to Tong-dal, and that he should do what he must. If he avoids his duties because of lingering attachments to the past, then it's Tong-dal he'll wrong the most. Yusum asks if she was really okay with him doing this, and she smiles, saying that she's the wife of a gangster now, and it's her responsibility to accept his burden too. It jumps back to Han telling Tong-dal that he saved his daughter-in-law, and he failed to save a great person, and Tong-dal says he's glad he could help, and near the temple, an actual tiger attacked just as he predicted. Han says that for him to foresee misfortune, he can never cross someone with a spiritual power. Tong-dal asks if he believes him now, and Han says of course, if he says the word, he'll do everything he can, asking if he'll strike at Hibong next month or next week. Tong-dal pulls out a knife and stabs the table, saying that he's going to do it today. At the Baekdong branch, Hibong's hitting the table, asking how they're offering so much money but still nobody's willing to go. Jin-ho asks who would risk getting screwed just for that petty amount, even more so since they have Yusum there now. Hibong says that's all because of that bastard Tong-dal. Jin-ho then thinks about it, asking how about they hire Bok Gui, that he should go approach him again. Bok Gui is a skilled assassin from Hangzhou. He sets his own price depending on the difficulty of your request. The price he set for Tong-dal was 6 taels. Hibong says that bastard is too expensive, but Jin-ho says that considering it's the heavenly pavilion, it's a bargain. If they leave Tong-dal like this, he might target their gambling dens next, that they need to admit that he's skilled, and they need to take this chance to get rid of him for good. Hibong gets pissed but realizes he's right and tells Jin-ho to go pay Bok Gui in advance. He has to go visit somewhere today. Jin-ho says that recently his wife's been acting strange, and he should stay away from women for a while. Hibong asks if he thinks he's an idiot like him, getting caught seeing another woman, saying he's so incompetent he can't even cheat properly. We hear his side piece asking if it's okay for him to come this often. He tells her to shut her mouth as he needed to blow off some steam today. She screams out of excitement, then the door gets blown open. Hibong turns, and we hear his wife yelling at him, asking if he's finally gone crazy. Hibong wonders what the hell she's doing here, and that his downfall wasn't exactly as planned. He got caught in the act with a former courtesan, and he was beaten to a pulp by his wife and expelled from the society. Of course, the one who tipped off the boss's sister was none other than Tong-dal. Hibong says still they shared years together. If he begs his wife he might get reinstated into the organization, and that Tong-dal will be dead soon anyways thanks to Bok Gui, so once he's back it'll be good. We then hear a man asking if he is Hibong, the former Red Society branch leader. Hibong asks how dare he speak his name before his head gets sent flying, but before he can even process what's happening he's seeing the back of this man, and life was worth 1 tael. Tong-dal thanks Jin-ho for the cooperation, and Jin-ho says not to mention it, that with the money he received from Hibong, he commissioned the assassination of not Tong-dal but Hibong instead. He then hands him a couple taels, telling him to take it, that's 2 of the remaining 5, and Tong-dal says that he didn't have to give him anything. Jin-ho says that he has a sense of decency, and that he should put in a good word with Wang Chil. After Hibong's downfall, the branch got a new leader. Everybody bowed, greeting Wang Chil, and Wang Chil says that even a rat hole sees the sunlight someday, as he has now been promoted. Wang Chil tells Jin Ho to come with him for a moment, and when they get inside closed doors, Wang Chil says that he owes him an apology, and that he should have become the branch leader. Jin Ho then says to give it to him when he gets promoted to the main branch. This place isn't his final destination. Wang Chil says honestly being a branch leader feels like too much for him. Jin Ho says that he doesn't know, as things might be different once he's the head of a whole organization, and he doesn't think a person like Tong Dal is going to let him stay stuck here. Wang Chil says that he's got a point, and Jin Ho says that he actually came to see him 2 days ago. He came in to check on how the branch was doing and to ask him to look after him. Wang Chil says that dude's always meddling in everything, and he says there's no way Tong Dal is satisfied with this, and he doesn't think he can afford to keep living a slow safe life anymore. Wang Chil asks if he's going to be tagging along with him too, and Jin Ho says that depends on how he does. Back to Tong Dal, he says it looks like the first steps have been taken, and that the Beatdong branch is just the beginning. In business terms, he's only secured the seed money, but in the next 2 years he's going to take over the entire society. We then hear a guy yelling at him, asking if he is Tong Dal, and that he really does look like some pampered gigolo. They start flaming him, calling him handsome. The guy throws him a broom, telling him to hurry up and clean as he showed up late so he better work hard. Beatdong says that sweeping is a bit low for Tong Dal as he was a squad leader back at their branch. This guy hits Beatdong in the head, saying that being a squad leader in a trash heap like that means nothing. Tong Dal asks if they're really trying to bully him, saying he doesn't care, for now he just needs to keep his head down. He sees something and says that he doesn't know this guy's name, but he just fucked up big, as somebody puts their hand on his shoulder. We see none other than Wang Chil, telling him to say that shit one more time about the trash heap comment. Later that day, Wang Chil tells Tong Dal not to worry about what happened today, and he should have given him a heads up beforehand, as Jin Ho is now educating them properly. Tong Dal says that's just going to make them resent him more, and that he shouldn't worry, as he'll take care of it, as they'll quiet down soon. Wang Chil asks if he's confident, and Tong Dal says that if he wasn't capable enough, he'd have to live a long and quiet life like him. Wang Chil says that he's changed from now on, and he's going to live a bold and long life with him instead. Later we see some men with Tong Dal threatening a woman to get her protection money. This is the new 5th team that he made, with Tong Dal as its leader. It was assigned to Sanhwa Street, a neighborhood with one gambling den and a small brothel alley. One of his team members says that Tong Dal is doing nothing, and someone in a high position should be leading by example. Beatdong laughs awkwardly, saying that Tong Dal needs to get a feel for the atmosphere too. The two walk away, calling him a gutless bastard, saying that the title of team leader is useless. Tong Dal wonders if he should educate them now, but decides to hold out a little longer. In 3 days, a fight will break out with one of the 4 great black societies, the Black Dragon Group. The long, drawn-out battle ultimately ends in the Black Dragon Society's victory, and the Red Tiger Society is forced to give up 30% of its territory. That was also around the time that Beatdong was stabbed in the back and died. Of course, he won't let it happen this time. 3 days later, Jia Yun says that it's been a while. Tong Dal says that since he moved to the Beatdong branch, he hasn't had a chance to come here recently. She says that if she wants to see him, she guesses she needs to request protection from the Beatdong group, but asks what he's doing here, saying surely he's not a customer. He says of course not, as a single bottle of alcohol here costs him his monthly salary, and he's here to borrow Yusum. Yusum asks if he needs to bring a weapon, and Tong Dal says with his skills, a wooden sword is more than enough, asking if his methods have gotten harsher lately. He says that it's because he's part of the Black Society too, and Tong Dal asks if the name is okay. Yusum says that if it's Tong Dal's society, then it's fine, and Tong Dal says that it won't be that much different. The only difference between a tiger and a cat is their size, and some things need to be done differently. The door gets slammed open, as they see the guy from earlier yelling at Tong Dal, asking where the hell he's been. Tong Dal asks what's wrong, and the guy says that the House of Blossom was attacked by the Black Dragon Society, so a mobilization order has been issued. The guy says that it's been an hour, and the members from 3 branches have almost all gathered here. Tong Dal says the fight must be over by now, and if it's House of Blossom, they can take their time and get there in 15 minutes. The guy says this is no time to be taking it easy, and Tong Dal says that if he's in such a hurry to go on ahead. The guy says that he has to deliver the news elsewhere, and Tong Dal tells him to get going then. The guy runs away, saying that he's going to make sure he gets a beating for dragging his feet. Yusum watches, asking Tong Dal if he knew there would be an attack today. Tong Dal says he heard some intel, and it was unconfirmed, but it turned out to be right. Yusum says that, and yet he doesn't seem to be in a hurry like the rest are. Tong Dal says whether they're late or early, the results are the same, there's no need to rush it. Yusum says that in all of his life, he's never met an oddball like him. Tong Dal asks what he means, and Yusum says that he's the kind of oddball he's glad to call a friend. Tong Dal laughs, saying that being a friend of his is an honor, and there's no take-backs. The door opens, and Yusum says it's the same for him, as what they see is a group of men from the Black Dragon Society in front of them. This guy's name is Huang Chan-sok. Chan-sok laughs, saying that he thought this was just a gathering of cowards, but it looks like the Red Tiger Society has some gutsy bastards too. Tong Dal calls out to Baek Dong, telling him to move the members who could still walk, and the injured to one side. Chan-sok tells one of his men to take some dudes and test the water, and he says that if things go well, they can cook them too. Chan-sok says that if he's going to do it well. They charge in, and both Tong Dal and Yusum draw their blades. Before the guy can even react, he and his boys are instantly dealt with. Chan-sok realizes that this is going to be more trouble than they thought, and even Baek Dong and them are surprised. Tong Dal says that he doesn't want to waste time, the leaders need to step up right now. Tong Dal asks Yusum if he should take on all of them. Yusum says that since he's here he needs to pull his weight too. Tong Dal tells him to sit this one out, and Yusum says that he told him from the start that they're here together. The guys ask why they're yapping so calmly in front of them, and charge at them saying that they need him to know his place. One of them swings forward at Tong Dal, and he sidesteps. The guy tries to follow up multiple times, but Tong Dal continues to dodge every single one of the attacks, saying that this guy's movements are completely different from those thugs. This is the first life or death battle he's had since this life began. He smiles, saying this is excellent, and the guy calls him an eel. He swings at Tong Dal, but Tong Dal dodges with a clean matrix lean, and everybody's surprised. The guy realizes that he made a mistake before Tong Dal starts cutting all over and dashes past him, finishing the fight in an instant. The guy starts to bleed out on the floor, and then he hears more screaming as he turns, seeing Yusum has already finished his fight as well. Chan-sok asks who they are, and Tong Dal introduces himself as being from the Baek Dong branch. Chan-sok asks why he's lying, as there's no way they'd be able to beat 3 of their blood swords, asking which faction he's from. Tong Dal asks Baek Dong who he is, and Baek Dong backs him up. Tong Dal says that he hurt himself, and Chan-sok asks why the hell they're working in the Black Society. For someone like him to be a team leader, no matter how bad the Red Tiger Society leader is at judging people, this is too much. Tong Dal says that he's done with the talking, and that Chan-sok needs to pick if he's going to fight or surrender. Chan-sok sighs and drops his weapon, because in the world of mercenaries surrender means death. He says that he hopes they'll go easy on him, and he tells all his men not to draw their blades. They start charging at Tong Dal with just their fists. We see Chan-sok on the ground with blood coming out of his mouth, and Tong Dal says that in his past life he only heard that he had a cruel personality, but seeing him today, he's quick to grasp the situation, and more importantly, he knows how to care for his subordinates. Tong Dal tells Chan-sok they'll grab a drink next time they meet, and Chan-sok says that was too much, and the drinks will be on him. Baek Dong runs over and calls him team leader. Tong Dal says just to call him by name instead. Baek Dong says that he told him to wear this today, and like he said, he almost crossed the river Styx today, and he survived thanks to him. From now on, if he says so, he'll carry firewood and jump into a fire for real. We hear an old man saying that it hasn't even been 2 months since Tong Dal joined. This is the leadership meeting for the Red Tiger Society. The leader's name is Joel Chi-woon. He says that Tong Dal's like a guy who fell from the sky. Han is there as well, and he says that they were just lucky in this fight, asking what would have happened if Tong Dal wasn't there, and that he must be rewarded properly. Another dude says that he's getting too much praise for doing what's expected, and too much of a reward will cause a rift in the organization. His name is Sung Young, and he is a guardian. Han says that Tong Dal did what he was expected to, but Sung Young didn't. Sung Young gets pissed, and Chi-woon asks who this person is with Tong Dal, as he heard he's even more skilled than him. Wang Chil says that he's a warrior who is personally acquainted with the team leader. Sung Young asks why he got involved in this fight, and Wang Chil says that he was told Tong Dal asked him to. Sung Young says that means they must be close, and he's more interested in that man, asking where this friend of his lives. The branch is now greeting Tong Dal, telling him it's a good day. Tong Dal says that just yesterday they saw him as a greenhorn, but overnight their treatment has changed entirely. Scar says that Elder Han is waiting for him, and Tong Dal says he'll be right there. The other men are also watching, saying that for an elder to call him personally, he really is something else, and another guy says he should have been there to see him at the fight. Tong Dal hands Han a talisman as requested from last time. Han asks if this will help his daughter bear a son. Tong Dal says yes, he just needs to put it in her pillow. He remembers that Han threw a feast 2 months after the Black Society's attack, and he was grinning from ear to ear, saying that his daughter-in-law was with child. Han says that since Tong Dal says so, it must be true, and if there's anything he wants, just to say the word. As it happens, the leader told Han to give him a reward. Tong Dal says knowing the leader, the reward probably won't be that big. Han says that he sure is a cheapskate, and he'll give it to him even if he has to pay out of his own pocket, so just name it. Tong Dal wants some consolation money for the members who were injured in the fight. Han asks what he wants for his reward, and Tong Dal says having all of his limbs intact is his reward, so he's fine. Han says as expected, he's too good for this environment, and speaking of which, the leader seems to covet that friend who came with him. Tong Dal asks if he means Yusum, and Han says exactly. He's planning to make him his direct subordinate, and he heard he's stronger than him. Tong Dal says he could be a first-rate master if he went into the martial world, but he doesn't think Yusum will go under the leader, and they'd be lucky if he doesn't get embarrassed for no reason. Han asks what he means, and Tong Dal smiles, asking if a tiger would feel good if a dog told it to come under its command. We see Sung Young being thrown onto the floor, calling Yusum arrogant, asking how he thinks he can survive here after making an enemy of them. Yusum asks if he looks like a dog that would come running with its tail wagging when they ask, and he says they all overestimated themselves because of Tong Dal. We see Chi Woon there with him as well, saying that he sure is spirited, that if he comes to headquarters he'll give him the position of guardian, and he can't let a capable friend like him not in a place like his. Yusum though says he likes it here. Sung Young says that if that arrogant guy is left alone, the association's head prestige will be ruined. Chi Woon says there's nothing better than growing fond of someone through fighting, and to take it easy. I guess he didn't learn his lesson from a minute ago. Yusum says there's no need for him to even try fighting him again, and Sung Young gets pissed, charging at him, calling him arrogant. But Yusum just realizes how weak he is. He catches his arm and stops him from moving before he comes in for an attack, and then sends him straight down into the dirt. Chi Woon is surprised to see that Sung Young got done in with a single hit, and Yusum asks who he is. Chi Woon sighs, saying that the head can't just fight recklessly here. Back to Wang Chil, he wonders what he should do, as even if Yusum doesn't know, Sung Young, the head's face must have been badly hurt. Jin Ho says that he doesn't know if the head will stay calm, asking Tong Dal if he's worried. Tong Dal asks why he should be worrying, and Wang Chil asks what he'll do if they try to do something to Yusum. Tong Dal asks what they could even do to him, and Wang Chil says that he doesn't know, since he just tried and failed. Tong Dal says that since Sung Young was defeated in a single strike, even if Chi Woon wants to, there's nothing he can do. Yusum says that he should have just endured it, but Tong Dal says he did well, and that the promise of their contract of him not doing whatever he wants to is still valid. And there's no reason for the head to even try thinking of taking in Yusum. Yusum says that makes it sound more embarrassing, and then asks when their contract ends, as he doesn't think they've discussed it. Tong Dal says it'll probably be the day where he takes charge of the knights around here. Yusum asks if he really has such thoughts, and Tong Dal says if he didn't have that plan, he wouldn't have brought Yusum along. And at the latest, it'll be 2 years, if fast, he could do it within a year, though. A few days later, Tong Dal's working in his streets, telling a woman that if anything comes up to call him. Over the past few days, the atmosphere in their street has completely changed. Not only those causing trouble, but even disputes between merchants were mediated. They must have realized for the first time why they pay protection fees, and Tong Dal says just as the emperor values public sentiment, the Black Society also needs a bond with the residents to control the knights. It's a lesson that he learned over 60 years in his previous life. Scar starts yelling out for him in a panic, saying there's a big problem. Tong Dal asks what's wrong, and he says that at the government office, they're taking their members. They inform Wang Chil, asking what the new county magistrate is doing. Scar says that not only their association members, but 50 from the Black Dragon Society have also been taken. Tong Dal wonders if this is what he thinks it is, asking how many from the Baekdong branch were taken. Scar says that's the strange part, not a single person from their area has been touched. Wang Chil asks if that makes sense, and Tong Dal says he knew it. Wang Chil asks if he finds it funny their members were taken, and Tong Dal says they can go straight to the government office. Wang Chil asks if he's trying to surrender, and Tong Dal says that they can take Jin Ho too, as it'll be good to establish a connection with the magistrate. He heads to the office, saying that they need to go tell him that Tong Dal has come to meet. Wang Chil asks if this is right. Even meeting the magistrate is hard for the head of the black society. Tong Dal says just to trust him. The guards say that's absurd, saying that he has business to make an appointment. Tong Dal asks if they're confident they won't regret it, saying if they don't want to get fired to go and give his name to his higher-ups. The guy tells them to wait, and the door is opened, and they welcome him in, saying that they were told to escort them. Wang Chil asks what's going on, asking if something's happened. Tong Dal says it's nothing, and they only need to rescue their members. Wang Chil asks if he can really do that, and Tong Dal says that if he didn't think he could, he never would have come. As he enters the door, Su Guan tells them to come on in, saying that he arrived earlier than expected. Tong Dal says he's quick to notice things. Su Guan asks who the two people with him are, and Tong Dal says they are people he's escorting. Su Guan tells them to cut to the chase, asking what he wants, and Tong Dal says to release his members. Su Guan asks why, and Tong Dal says he'll forget the debt of life. Su Guan asks if his life is only worth a few months of these hooligans being imprisoned, and Tong Dal says he'll add one more thing, and he'll add himself. A busy person wouldn't do this just to imprison a few thugs, and he definitely needs a partner. Su Guan says that he likes people who are quick to notice, as there's not a need for many words to be spoken. They are now being released from the office, and they ask Wang Chil what the meaning of this is. Wang Chil says that he negotiated with the magistrate. They ask if he really negotiated with the magistrate rather than the Justice Department. He says that they should just head back. Tong Dal says he gave the credit to Wang Chil, as they say the nail that sticks out gets hammered down. It's better to build up their trust with Wang Chil. Su Guan told him that now his life's debt is repaid, but the words about him becoming his partner, he hopes he'll prove them soon. Tong Dal tells him to look forward to it. Back at the Black Dragon Society, Chan Sok says he didn't expect his wish to have a drink with him to come true so quickly. Ever since he hit him in the face, his nose has been crooked to the left. Tong Dal asks if he wants to be hit again so he would turn to the right. Chan Sok laughs, asking what the reason for his visit is. He says that they are still in a truce. Tong Dal says that he believes it's time to end this fight. He heard the news yesterday about how the Black Dragon Society and the Red Tiger Society were rounded up, but only the Red Tiger Society was released. Chan Sok asks if he won over the Justice Department, and Tong Dal laughs, telling him to think harder, asking how his men could have been released so quickly. Chan Sok asks if it was really the magistrate, and Tong Dal says he hates to waste words, he'll have all of the Black Dragon Society's men released as well. Chan Sok asks why such a favor when they are not even friends. Tong Dal asks if he really thinks that this is a favor. Chan Sok says that he is blatantly showing off his connection to the magistrate, and the most difficult opponent for the Black Dragon Society is the government. He's saying that the one who needs to show favor is their society instead. He says that he'll discuss it with the elders, and Tong Dal says that he knows his leader and he isn't very patient, so he better hurry. There's then a large sum of money dropped off at Tong Dal, and it's 100 silver taels. And he says no wonder the master eventually took over half of their region, not just for his boldness in readily offering 100 silver taels, but for trusting his subordinates' eyes even though he could have been a swindler. And that his master and their leader was ticked off at him because of the Yusum incident, so he didn't give him a single form of payment even though he saved all of their men. He says that he's returned, and Su Guan says that it's about time, saying that he's been waiting for his partner candidate. Tong Dal asks if he's not even offered tea because he's just a candidate, and Su Guan says that being a candidate means he could end up being nothing, and he's not a man with a habit of wasting things. Tong Dal hands him 100 silver taels. Su Guan asks if that's for him, and he says that it's the magistrate's money as soon as the Black Dragon Society members are released. Su Guan says that people are going to think he's a corrupt official. Tong Dal says that he hasn't become corrupt yet, and he should hurry, the later he corrupts, the more he'll lose. Su Guan says that he has a point, but he feels like he'd get sick if he just did it instantly. Then Tong Dal says the money is just the beginning, he will become the magistrate's one and only secret channel. Su Guan asks if that means all bribes will go through him, and he says that he'll manage it for him. On the outside, the magistrate will be an incorruptible official who only receives his monthly salary, and he will become a true paragon among officials. Su Guan asks if he really thinks the money he could earn from running away with his payments is more than he'd earn by ruling the city at night. Su Guan asks if he really had such an ambition, and Tong Dal says that he should at least have that to be the magistrate's partner. Su Guan laughs, saying he should do it properly, because if he becomes his enemy, the night will become his nightmare instead. Su Guan says he promised the thugs were all released, and this proved that Tong Dal and the magistrate were connected. The society requested a formal truce, offering up a tavern to gambling in, and the negotiations proceeded swiftly. We see Han super excited some time later, and Tong Dal asks what he's so excited about. He says thanks to the talisman he wrote, his daughter-in-law is pregnant, and he thanks him. Tong Dal says it must be nice that his sincerity reached her, and with this, his position within the society is solidified, not just with the men, but the elders trust him now too. The problem is that the leader doesn't like him, but it doesn't matter, he intends to step on him and climb up to begin with. One of the men barges in, saying that Bo Yang has been attacked, they fractured his ankle and split his head open. And this isn't the guy who attacked the men before. Tong Dal asks what kind of crazy bastard would do that and where Bo Yang is. We hear Bo Yang saying that he wasn't very old, but he could only see the lower half of his face, and at best he was around Tong Dal's age. Tong Dal asks about his blade, and Bo Yang says that he drew his, but he's no match for him, and that it was over in an instant. Tong Dal asks if he meets him again if he thinks he can win, and Bo Yang says that he'd rather call for Tong Dal. Tong Dal just wonders who he is, saying, according to his memories, about 10 members of the Red Society were taken down. None of the other societies suffered the same fate, and no matter how he thinks about it, he's clearly a martial artist. And he wonders if it's somebody that's specifically targeting the gangs. Someone then appears behind him and tips his hat at Tong Dal, saying that he wants to spar with him. Tong Dal says he should at least know the reason why they're fighting, and the guy says that's because he's a thug who deserves a beating. Tong Dal says he lowered his voice, but he can tell he's young. Seeing as he didn't watch his surprise attack, he's no assassin. The problem is, that this guy is way stronger than he is. Tong Dal tells him that if he wants to play at being a wandering swordsman there are more fitting places. The guy tells him to get his weapon ready already. Tong Dal pulls out his blade, and the guy starts to tense up. Tong Dal asks why he's tensing up at that level of skill. The guy exhales and starts to charge forward. Tong Dal blocks the attack, saying that speed is something he'd only ever seen from Yusum. In a narrow alley a wooden sword should be hard to use, but he's got skill that surpasses all those drawbacks. However, it seems as if he's not too used to fighting, as Tong Dal kicks up a hay bale towards him. The guy calls him a coward and dodges him. Tong Dal closes the gap, saying that this kid doesn't have much experience. The kid realizes he's in danger and backsteps as Tong Dal slices upward. His hat falls off, and his shirt starts to be cut. Tong Dal says it was too shallow and he should have done it deeper before he gets used to the space. The guy starts to panic hard, and Tong Dal wonders what's his deal. The guy comes in with an attack that's very easily blocked. He says that attack was really bad this time, and he swings, knocking the guy's hand sideways before kicking him in the stomach. The guy falls down and starts to get back up, but Tong Dal puts his blade in his face, asking who he is and to state his name. The guy says that his name is Nam Gung Kil Hyun. Tong Dal's surprised, seeing that this is a figure from his past life, and his role in the martial world was so great that even the dregs of the Black Society knew his name, and asked if he is the young master to the Namgung clan. He says that since he won't answer he'll take it as a yes, asking why he's doing this. Kil Hyun says it's a martial contest. Tong Dal says that he can guess as much. To cure his own weakness he wanders alleys and picks fights, and calls him foolish, asking if he thought fighting a few thugs would rid him of his fear. Kil Hyun asks how he knew this, and Tong Dal says compared to the Black Society his clan is a heaven above heaven, and in his life they never crossed paths, and asks him if he wants to overcome his fear. They head back to the office, and Jin Ho welcomes him. Tong Dal asks how the business is going, and Jin Ho says thanks to him there's no worries at all. Tong Dal says that he wants him to get some clothes for this guy to wear. Jin Ho says he must be a rookie since he's never seen him, and it looks like he got injured, and he'll prepare something immediately. As they start doing their rounds on the street, some of the old people say that he needs to eat 3 times a day, asking why he's so skinny. Even the women are trying to hand him some food, and Kil Hyun says that he thought the Black Society is supposed to be parasites feeding off the people. Tong Dal asks if it's strange to see a thug get treated like this. Kil Hyun says he wants to get to the point, asking how he'll make him overcome his fear. Tong Dal says only the dead have no fear, asking if he wants to die. Kil Hyun says he's not kidding, nobody knows he's a coward. He's hidden it well, but in the upcoming tournament it'll all come out. Tong Dal asks if he means the festival the Orthodox sects hold every 2 years. Kil Hyun says that the tournament has a gathering for late bloomers, and Tong Dal says surely they won't use light blades. Gil Hyun says that in the hands of a master a wooden sword is no different from a real one. 2 years ago he dodged participation with illness as an excuse, but this time he can't. Tong Dal says that he could die, and this is how he overcame his fear, and that is by surviving death countless times. Gil Hyun asks if he's really faced death that many times and if the black society is that dangerous since he's so young. Tong Dal says that even if he tells him, he can't promise it'll conquer his fear, and Gil Hyun says nobody can make that promise to begin with. They cheers their cups, and Gil Hyun says that if he doesn't overcome his fear he'll live a life worse than death. We see the doctor again, and he says he's been seeing Tong Dal often. Tong Dal tells him not to be wary, as it's not that he's fallen for him, and the dude lets down, asking if he brought a rookie. Tong Dal says that he's just a friend, and pays him some money, saying he'll use the backyard and to patch up the minor wounds as they go. The doctor says thanks to him he'll be rich, and he'll be inside so they can call him if needed. Gil Hyun looks at the dagger, saying that he's never used one before, and Tong Dal says that he'll need it if he wants to fight within their society, but tells him to get ready as they're going to be starting. Gil Hyun asks if his fear will really disappear like this, and Tong Dal says he doesn't know the answer to that, he just thought that experiencing it would be better than anything else, and he starts charging at him. Gil Hyun says that a real blade just terrifies him, as well as feeling somebody's killing intent, and it's always like this. The sensation of fear that he can't control. Tong Dal starts attacking, and Gil Hyun freezes up and is stuck just blocking them, but one of the attacks goes through, cutting his leg, and he falls to the floor, telling him to wait, as he can't do this anymore. Tong Dal says that if he says he wants to quit here, they'll end it, and he'll get treatment in return, and he'll just go back to living his old life, and they'll never meet again. Getting used to this never happens just 1 or 2 tries, unless he climbs that wall himself, he'll live as a coward until he dies. Gil Hyun, not wanting that, grits his teeth and grabs his blade, saying that he wants to go again. Tong Dal says that if he doesn't give up, he won't either, since surely he understands. Gil Hyun says that unless he dies, he refuses to go back and live the life of a coward. If you've watched till the end, comment, Hollow Knight, to let me know. Subscribe for more videos like this, leave a like or a comment to help the channel out. Thanks for watching.